Yeah, this is actually the middle of the show. We're on to Smallville, season 1, episode 10.
Great thing to come back to, right?
I know.
This is probably why I fell asleep. I just thought, oh, could do Smallville.
But this great episode, what are you mad? This is season 1, episode 10. It's called Shimmer, and there's the family, the mum who helps clean the Lex manor, the mansion. Like,
She's the maid.
She's the maid, yes. But she's got a little cottage next to the main house, and she lives in there with her teenage children, who of course go to school with Clark and Co. Even though we've never seen them. The daughter was on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was in Conversations with Dead People, a season 7 episode.
Fair enough.
I forgot to mention during Lois and Clark, I'm pretty sure the corrupt guy that we're spying on, I think he was the swim team coach from Go Fish, the season 2 episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
fair enough.
Some Buffy faces.
This girl here, I recognise her voice. I think she's done a fair bit of voice work.
She probably has, because I recognise her face. I actually didn't quite call it was Buffy immediately.
You had to go hunting.
I went hunting because I recognised her. And I think I might have seen her in a couple of things, but that was the one that was like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is now that you're telling me it's Buffy. But yeah, so she was actually in this before Buffy, which is usually when I'm saying, oh, this person was in Buffy. It's usually, that was years ago they were in Buffy, but this was like a year before that Buffy episode, so there you go. She was making the rounds. So she has a crush on Lex, and she's jealous of British lady who's living with Lex right now, whose father's also rich, and he's trying to use her to take over Luthor Corp in the show.
Yes, a rival company.
And Luthor, Lionel shows up and she's playing you, Lex. She's dangling boobs out in front of you, so you'll make mistakes. And then Clark notices her spying around, and is like, she's spying on you. I said, oh, I know. We're playing chess, Clark. This is the game.
Joe, this is the bit that I really laughed, because Clark goes, "You don't love her. You don't trust her. Why are you keeping her around?" And Lex is clearly like, "For the sex, obviously." That's in his head. He's like, "What? Are you this naive?"
She's very attractive, Clark. Come on, there's one reason. She might be trying to backstab me, but she's very willing in lots of other ways, so I'm going with it.
Exactly.
I almost like when Clark sort of keeps going and Lex kind of says, you know what, Clark, you have impenetrable morals, never lose that, because Clark's really like, oh well, you don't love her, so there's no point. He's very, Lex appreciates how pure he is. He wouldn't just do this for the sex. He appreciates that, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, so either the girl or her brother, because it's quite clear at the start of the episode it's one of them, right? And then after about 5 minutes as well, it has to be the brother, because he has nothing to do except turn out to be the one who's actually invisible, right? So there's an invisible kid tormenting Lex, or more specifically Lex's girlfriend, and just the high school bully at the start, and just whatever. Interestingly, there was a high school invisible kid episode in Buffy as well.
Of course there was.
Much better than this one, may I add.
I mean, probably, yeah. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm willing to just agree, because this one's pretty shit.
I mean, the invisible stuff's kind of whatever. It's just kind of awkward. The girl's got a crush, and I don't really care about the corporate espionage side of things or any of that bollocks. The other plot, though. Other than Clark,
I will say I did appreciate Lex being like, "Come on, she's too young for me." Even Lex has a line.
Until season 6.
I mean, sure.
Okay, don't get me wrong. By season 6, Lana's not a high school girl anymore, but still,
yeah, it's not super creepy at that point, but
I think it's a little bit creepier because he's known her since she's she's maybe 15 here, right?
Sure, yeah. It's a bit creepier, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not that, but it's
oh yeah. She's but season 6 she's what? She's 20. So I mean, whatever. Yeah.
20 something, yeah.
Yeah. But still, I'll just say. But yeah, so we got an awkward Clark was going to wing it, fly by the seat of his pants, and then Pete's all, "You're not the flying type, Clark." I'm like, oh, bash my head against the wall. Make it stop.
I mean, it's not inaccurate on this show.
Don't defend it with that.
I'm not. I'm just saying, I don't think they realized that how much they were predicting the truth of it.
So, honestly, I mean, it may actually be 50-50, but I feel like the Invisible Girl plot, or the Invisible Boy plot, because the girl's jealous and he's taking care of her.
Is actually the subplot.
It's actually just, at the very least, it's 50-50, when it should be, that's the main plot and it gets more.
Should be like 80-20.
The Clark-Lana plot gets a lot of time here. And she's done a blood drive, and it does raise the interesting question where she expects Clark to be a good guy and donate some blood, and he has a legitimate reason not to. And what I thought was funny is he has to sort of dangle his way out of it, and he offers to help in other ways, and he brings the problem to his parents. Oh, Lana will hate me if I don't donate blood, but what am I supposed to say? And they came up with a fairly plausible, just say you're afraid of needles, and that's why you won't do it.
Yeah, no, what I liked is the wording was, say you've got a problem with needles. That's technically true.
That is technically true. And all I could think was, like, because he's like, oh, that makes me sound like a wuss. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, fine, but just say there's a medical reason you can't. Like, just say you've got something in your blood that's, you're not allowed to.
He doesn't want to put her off.
True, yeah.
Scared that she might catch something.
Just something mundane, like just something like his iron is not very good, so he's not allowed to give blood.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, easy. Right.
Yeah. Solve the problem.
I'm just saying they could have played it smarter. Is all I'm saying. But the main thing though is he's getting close to Lana to the point where he's like, "Hey Lana, have you ever seen the sunset from a barn?" And she's like, "Yeah, we live next door, Clark. I see it all the time." And he's like,
He's like, oh shit. He's like, I can go watch another one though.
Joe's funny. At this point, it's so clearly the blossoming of a romance, but they're pretending it's not. And even at one point, Chloe's even like, "Hey Clark, once you cross that line, there's no going back. Don't tread carefully."
I'm sorry. That point, there was a point in that conversation there that might be the stupidest thing that's ever been said on this show.
Oh god.
So Chloe's like, "Oh, you invited her over to yours," and he's like, "Well, yeah." And she's like, "Oh, that's romantic." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's a farm. He invited her over to a barn. That is not romantic. It's not like candlelit dinner. He's literally gone, hey, come over to my barn.
Come and see my telescope."
All right. Like, what? In what world is this romantic? All of a sudden, like what?
I mean, on the one hand, I'll defend it and say it's actually more accurate than most teen TV shows, because to a teenager, because this is the thing, teen romance usually in TV shows, they all act like they're 35. They have a roaring fireplace. They have a bottle of wine. They they've got petals all over the place. It's like no, middle-aged people do this, not teenagers. So at the very least, this is actually more accurate, because to a teenager, this is as romantic as it's going to get, because teenagers are stupid.
If she said, oh, if he'd gone, oh, I'm taking her out for dinner, right?
Sure.
That's more romantic than come to this working farm. It's not like, it's not like a little countryside cottage. It's an actual farm. That's not romantic. At no level. Also, you can see it from your own house. It's not like it's a romantic getaway. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just go over there. Christ, is this really annoying? Clearly.
At least it's a crop farm and not like a cow farm, because otherwise it would smell really bad and it'd be even less romantic.
I mean, yeah, they must have cows, right? Because they've talked about milking the cows before.
I've never seen any cows.
All right, but I'm sure they've talked about milking cows before.
They always talk about crops.
They are, yeah, but I could have sworn they've talked about milking cows at some point.
Maybe they used to have cows, but there's been no cows spotted.
No, maybe they're in one of the other barns.
Where are all these barns that I'm not seeing, Connor? I only see one barn.
Somewhere, around the back.
Jeez. Anyway, so Whitney's been really standoffish. She doesn't want to talk to Lana. She's mad at him, and Clark swoops in, right? No pun intended. He swoops in, but then when he sees Whitney looking kind of upset in school one day, he notices there's medication in his bag, and he uses a bit of the X-ray vision to spot exactly what it is, and it's heart medication. So he has to be the good guy and talk to. He doesn't want to swoop in and steal her just because Whitney's going through a bad time. So he goes and talks to him. Turns out his dad's got heart trouble, and Clark, instead of just enjoying the sunset with Lana, is like, you should probably go and talk to Whitney. He really needs you right now. Blah 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 blah. And I mean, I don't fault them saying Clark's a good guy here and doing this. Like, that's fine. Like, that's like, yeah, he's Clark. Boy Scout.
Yeah, the problem is if he did take advantage of the situation, you'd probably call him out and be like, it's a bit low for Clark, isn't it?
It is. The problem is I have to sit through all of it.
Now that is a real problem.
With the awful chemistry and acting of these two people.
Oh no, we missed the sunset. You still stood right next to the window. One of you was looking out at it.
The one tomorrow. Obviously, it's a metaphor, Connor. They missed their moment. That's what it meant.
No, but it's bullshit.
That's what it meant. Oh, dear. I mean, honestly, I mean, the resolution in the episode to the invisible stuff is basically just Clark bumps him into some paint.
Yeah. He does smack him with that mace, though, which I'm pretty sure is in the opening credits for the rest of the show.
There you go.
So get used to that moment.
Yeah, that's pretty much the episode. I don't really have much else to add. Oh, when we end that episode, you know, Whitney and Lana are making up on the porch of her house, and of course Clark's spying again through the telescope. He's having a watch.
Yeah,
looking all miserable about it, as you do.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I don't know. Like, it's not the worst episode of the show, I guess, but I mean, there was no kryptonite offensiveness, so
just he got a bit weak when he went in, with the guy covered in the plant invisible shite.
Yeah, it had no effect when Chloe had it on her fingers earlier on.
Yeah, it was a bit. He did stumble at one point, right? I'm not misremembering this. I feel like when he went into the mansion for the first time, at the end there, and he kind of stumbled a bit, but then obviously took a mace to the face, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because earlier on, and by the way, I loved that it was a green liquid that made him invisible, because when Chloe puts it on her fingers, I'm just sitting thinking, they're literally just green screening the green liquid, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it kind of tracks because it's supposed to be, infused with kryptonite, right?
Oh, sure, no, it makes sense. If that's why
it is convenient.
But there was several scenes earlier on when Chloe's waving it about in her fingers, and he's just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, no, whatever. I'm with you. I mean, there's not very much of it, though, admittedly. On her fingers.
That's never mattered before.
It hasn't. It's kind of just... It's not that offensive, but it's just a chore to get through this episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a troubling watch. The bully was bad. The brother was particularly bad as an actor, I felt. It was very, very cliched, very whiny. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing to really compliment in the episode, really.
There's really not. It's a very bland episode.
Yes. And unfortunately, as much as the show loves to focus on it, when they do focus on Clark and Lana and the will they won't they stuff, it is tedious as shit, because it's written with no subtlety, no nuance. It's just like it's so blatantly the start of a romance, but the characters pretend that it's not. That it's insulting.
It is. This goes on for a long time, doesn't it?
I think so. Did he even get together in season 2? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so. Because I know how season 1 ends with the hurricane.
Tornado.
Fine, whatever.
There's a difference.
Sure, fine. I don't give a shit. They're both windy.
Windy.
Do you know the worst part is? I was just a minute ago checking, was that a mace or a flail?
Oh, don't get me started on that. The whole mace, flail, and Morningstar debate boggles my mind.
Well, a flail has a chain. This didn't have a chain, did it?
But this is the thing. I've seen ones with a chain referred to as a mace.
Well, that's wrong. If it's got a chain, it's a flail.
I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, they're all 3 variations of the same thing with just minor differences.
I am inclined to agree. That's how I feel about tornadoes and hurricanes.
They're very... Tornadoes, circular. Right?
Still windy shits.